And Justin, we've been able to see from the air that National Guard and police seem like they're really surveying the area, making sure everyone is out and away. Are you seeing many demonstrators who are remaining there in that area?
Yeah, Justin, as far as the people who are here for the demonstration earlier, there are people who are around, but there's not a lot of people right now. It's a very sparse crowd. Most of the people we've seen are just kind of going down the sidewalk. They look like they're trying to make their way home, but as we know, it does not take a big crowd to do a lot of damage. I'm actually going to step aside. So first thing you're going to see is a big group of police officers that have been blocking off Boylston Street here, diverting traffic around that. And then this Lord and Taylor behind them, it's really hard to see from here. You may not be able to see it, but some of the windows by the entrance have been broken in. This is one of many stores in the Boylston, Newbury Street area, in fact, all through Back Bay, that were looted. We saw Newbury Street, Zara, CVS. We saw another 5 or 6 stores that had all been broken into. It appears that most of the activity is thinning out at this point, but there's still a lot of police presence. In fact, what we just saw a few minutes ago, a big cavalcade of police cars just came down Boylston Street toward Copley. Now, we haven't been able to go over there because this line of police officers is preventing us from getting over there, but we are told that there are reports of looting over in Copley. So if that is correct, then the looting is not over tonight. Now, as far as what we're seeing from the police, all night long we've been out in this. We've seen a number of different skirmishes. We've been seeing people stomping on police cars, lighting trash can fires, lighting cars on fire, destroying and looting cars. We haven't seen anybody get seriously hurt, and the police here seem to be taking a pretty light approach. They're not being heavy-handed here. It looks like, to me, like their strategy. They're just blocking off certain areas and trying to manage the flow of traffic and just keeping an eye on things and trying to keep people back. At this point, again, there's not a whole lot of people, so right now they're mostly keeping car traffic from coming through this area. But if these reports are to be believed, there's still looting going on tonight, and there's still officers in vehicles that are patrolling the area, trying to stop this from getting any further. At this point, as you mentioned, Boston police have been telling people it's time to go home. We would probably think the same way. We hope people are able to get home safe and sound after what has been a very, very long night out here. Guys?
Justin, I know you also have had a long night. If you want to recap for us what happened with the news car and your photographer and your camera.
Yeah, guys, there's a lot to recap. Earlier, we were at the Bitcommon, and there was a big group of people and a big skirmish over there. Police were moving people back. It got very angry. A lot of people were yelling and screaming at the police. And what we actually saw, there's a police cruiser that was in the middle of Tremont Street with a couple officers in there, and people started throwing full water bottles at it. And then it started getting very angry. The officers were able to get out of the car before people jumped on top of it, started bashing in the windshield, denting the hood and roof. And at that point, we got approached by a group of protesters. And while we were live, I'm actually going to stop talking here and point over here. It looks like we have a big group of demonstrators that's coming through the area. I'm not sure exactly what this is about. I'm not sure what they were doing. It doesn't look like police are trying to apprehend anybody. So it looks like they might just be moving more traffic through the area. But while we're watching this, we had a camera destroyed earlier. A protester actually ripped it out of my photographer's hands and smashed it on the ground. And then we discovered that our car, which we had parked in the area of Washington and Essex Street, had been destroyed and looted. And now it appears there's a little bit of anger over here still. I mean, people at this point appear to be celebrating. I'm going to pan away from them because there's a lot of vulgar gestures over here. Jess, if you can just pan over here. We don't want to show too much on camera. But we had a camera destroyed. We had a cruiser, our vehicle destroyed. Stay safe. And a number of our items have been pulled out of that and looted or destroyed. So it's been a very long night out here. We're just trying to stay safe at this point, and we hope the same for everybody else. Back to you guys. Well, it's definitely quieter here than it was a little bit earlier, but if you look behind me, you can see they're actually boarding up a Crate and Barrel store over here. We've been walking down Newbury Street, Boylston Street. We've seen a number of stores that have been broken into and looted. Zara was broken into. A lot of the clothing was stolen out of there. The CVS, just a couple stores down. And we're not sure if this is preemptive or this Crate and Barrel had been destroyed and boarded up. Either way, there's going to be a lot of boarding up that's going to have to happen in this area. Now, as far as the people who are still out here, it's pretty sparse. So we saw a few people who had come out for the demonstration, kind of moving up and down Newbury Street. We didn't see them doing any looting or anything like that. It just appears to be a few stragglers. Here on Boylston Street, there is a large concentration of police and of National Guard keeping an eye on things. There's actually an armored truck not far from where we're standing over here. If you look down the street over here, you can just see a ton of traffic. You can see a couple of our photographers. They're out here getting shots. Nobody's really moving over here. There are a lot of police checkpoints blocking the roads. Looks like they're just trying to make sure the crowds don't come to certain critical areas. This night has been shocking. It's been scary. It's been sad. It's been really sad at times. We spoke to a number of demonstrators who were devastated to see people out here destroying their own city. We spoke to clergy members earlier who were part of a peaceful protest earlier in the day, talking about the righteousness of this cause that they are representing and how violence only takes away from it. So what we've seen tonight, it hasn't been helping anybody. And for what it's worth, we have seen a lot of really good moments of humanity. People checking in with the officers to make sure they're okay. People helping each other find their way home and stay safe. But as you can see, the damage here is significant. And we anticipate that there's going to be a lot of repair that's going to have to happen out here. Now, we don't know how long the National Guard is going to be keeping an eye on things. Again, it appears like most of the crowd has moved, but there are still people out here. So they're probably going to have to be out there for quite some time keeping an eye on things. And so will we, and we'll have our eyes on it if anything else happens here. For now, back to you guys.
They had an 8-minute moment of silence, and they had those 8 minutes to signify how long that police officer's knee was on George Floyd's neck, because we can't forget that's what this is all about, and this is what started all of that. So we're looking right now at Zara there on Newberry at this time. You see the significant damage there. You can see police working to protect that store at this moment, and making sure that no other individuals make their way inside of there. Let's go and go live to our Nathalie Pozo at the
Stores looted. Right now you are looking live as a number of police cars are making their way down Boston Street. And we do know the National Guard has been deployed to assist and help to gain control of the area. We are seeing far less crowds and a lot less people gathering in just kind of sporadic spots. Again, looking live, a number of officers on bikes there. You are looking live at Newberry Street as those officers, again, kind of clumping up at this time of the night, showing their presence, taking control. And hopefully we've seen the worst of it.
It really seems like they're making their way just down the street. We saw them at the very beginning of Newberry. This is near the end. You saw Joe's right there in this shot, just off to the left of the screen. And so it appears as if they're kind of making their rounds on, down Newberry, making sure that there aren't any stores that need assistance or protection at this moment. So we saw the UGG store be damaged. We saw Zara. So handful of stores with broken glass and some looters going in and out.
And you have to think a number of those stores have not been open for some time due to the coronavirus pandemic. So, you know, people aren't normally in and out of them like they would normally be. And so officers are important, especially at this time of night, standing watch and guarding and making sure that they are not looted like we have seen in some other places.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough situation for all the business owners already. I mean, this whole situation with the destruction and the looting is on top of a pandemic where, as you mentioned, they've been closed for months now. So, you know, we were looking at some of these stores, hopefully going to be able to reopen. And in phase 1 here in Massachusetts, they were able to do curbside pickup, just like a lot of the restaurants, and remote fulfillment. So, you know, it's going to be tough to see, especially once the sun rises and we get a better picture of some of the destruction here. But again, you're looking at Newberry here on your right. On the left, you see officers standing there in riot gear and their batons near the Common at this time. And so these are live. This is the situation we're looking at right now. We do have our Alex Deprado, who's been covering this entire day of protests, and Lauren Taylor, and make sure that no one's inside still. So we saw some officers go in and then come out. So it seems like they're checking that area there on that part of Boylston right around.
And you can still see a few of those doors opening now, and people and a few officers kind of inside off in the distance as those other officers, both state police and Boston police, are kind of lining up there in gathering in that area. Again, that's along Boylston, where we're seeing these officers gather and stand, and a moment of kind of calm for them as they are checking out the area after what's been a chaotic few hours.
Earlier tonight, here's what the scene looks like right now on Boylston Back Bay. And we keep checking back in to see how the situation is, because we saw the National Guardsmen and police make their way down Boylston and down Newbury. And so you can see the National Guard there on scene working to regain control of that situation. We saw police going in and out of Lord and Taylor, likely searching for possible looters. We saw looters going in and out of the Adidas store. And we saw the damage there to the UGG store there over on Newbury at the time. So we have heard from Governor Baker. He took to Twitter just minutes ago and called the individuals who are carrying out some violent actions, as he said, as far as the looting and the property destruction. He called their actions criminal and cowardly, and it distracted from the powerful statement made today by thousands of Massachusetts residents. So he, before that, he thanked everyone for a positive and peaceful message that happened really throughout the day. And so you can see a lot of officers, National Guardsmen, on guard right now in Boylston. So it remains to be seen if they have a full control of the situation in Boylston. This is just one part of it. So we've watched them, and it appears as if Lawrence police are also on scene. So Boston police calling in some help from other cities and towns in the area. And it's an unfortunate situation, and we're not really quite sure of like how much damage has been done, is because we can only see a little snapshot of it. So we've seen some looters and individuals make their way down Newbury and Boylston and create damage and destruction as they make their way down. So police have followed them, making sure that they keep moving without doing any more harm. So it still is yet to be determined if more stores and more businesses have been broken into and damaged throughout Downtown Crossing and Back Bay.
And I think you have to think about that it will be a difficult morning for a lot of people. Business owners will return to their businesses to look and see what was damaged, what's left behind. They'll walk up front and see their windows shattered after people threw rocks and bricks into their windows. You are looking live and seeing a number of officers walking down the street here. But it will be a difficult morning to wake up for a lot of people and to get a look at the damage when sunlight is out, and to see it's our city, and to see the streets that have seen a lot of damage through the evening. A lot of things have been thrown, and we really won't get a grasp on that until the morning.
Yeah, that's right. And you mentioned we're seeing more officers make their way down Boylston. So we had some reporters there in and around the Common, and it seems like some police are still sticking around there. A lot of police making their way down Boylston right now. So they're walking, but it remains to be seen what else is happening in the city, because once we see police get control of one spot, we know that there's another spot likely flaring up. And we watched that happen tonight, where they were able to maintain some control in Downtown Crossing. Then we saw the flare-ups on Tremont. Once they were able to get that under control for some bit, then we saw some more flare-ups in Downtown Crossing. Saw a jewelry store, windows there shattered, and then we saw people looting the Walgreens. So you see the canines there out as well. A lot of honking, a lot of just regular cars, maybe trying to make their way through. Maybe they were people who were part of the protests. So again, we're keeping a close eye on this entire situation. It is now what was a pretty confined scene from the pack of people walking from Nubian Square to the State House peacefully. They demonstrated peacefully outside the State House, and then
they've got a handle on things. You can hear a lot of honking at the moment. Seeing some National Guards members there in the middle of the street. A number of officers on motorcycles making their way around, of course, giving them a little faster access to some parts of the city as things do appear calmer at the moment.
Streets are blocked off at this time, but if you know anybody who may still be in the city right now, it seems like they're going to have a tough time trying to get out on the T's, because we can run through them, but there are several. With the T and the Green Line, all trains are bypassing Arlington and Boylston. The Blue Line shuttle, all buses have been suspended. Orange Line, the State Street is being bypassed. Orange Line, Red Line, all trains are bypassing Charles MGH. Tufts, Blue Line, Green Line, Orange Line, all trains are bypassing Government Center, Haymarket, and Chinatown. So it's It's a tough situation, even for individuals who are, for police, and also for individuals who are trying to get away from the people who are unfortunately still trying to cause some damage.
Well, if you think about the concept of marching and protesting through different neighborhoods of Boston, people, left their cars in one area or commuted to the area and then ended up in a whole different area, and now maybe are having a little difficulty getting home after some of our more tense moments broke out this evening. You are looking live as a police van, of course, truck making its way around that corner there as a number of officers are still standing in the street. It's been a little bit of time. We saw that small group still gathered at this hour at the Common, but it kind of appears here along Newbury and Boylston that some of those scenes police have a better handle on that. You can see a police canine, a couple of canines there. The National Guard, of course, has been called in to help. And some just everyday cars, it appears appear to be either getting out of the area or making their way through. Other people might wake up, if they parked their cars on the street, might wake up and find some unfortunate damage to their own vehicles. Our news crew, our reporter Justin Bork, showing us that one of our SUVs badly damaged, windows shattered, their belongings thrown across the ground. And other people might be waking up to the same. Our Nathalie Pozo is live. She's been with us all afternoon and evening, starting with that peaceful protest, who chose to engage in acts of destruction and violence, undermining the message. That would be the message of the peaceful protesters. He writes on Twitter, if we are to achieve change and if we are to lead the change, our efforts must be rooted in peace and regard for our community. So again, this follows a message from the mayor tonight after we've seen a lot of destruction across the city of Boston, but also important to note it started as a very peaceful day and a day that people took to the streets to have their voices heard and to demand justice in the death of George Floyd, to fight against police brutality. And it just took a turn at around 9 o'clock tonight.
And Governor Baker even calling the violent actions by a few individuals cowardly. And so we are, again, trying to get a full grasp of where something may be happening or whatnot. So we're looking now at Boylston, not far from the Prue at this time. So you see the National Guardsmen and police there. But we've seen a lot of damage, especially earlier. So we saw Boston Police SUV fully engulfed in flames. And that has now been put out. No one appeared to be injured in that situation. We also saw a Boston Police cruiser that was sustaining heavy damage with a police officer still inside. Then that officer was able to be rescued by fellow officers, so that officer appeared to not be injured at all at that time. So it remains to be seen right now exactly if there were any injuries at all. Our Alex DePrado has been near Tremont and Bromfield for quite some time, checking out that burnt out Boylston. And a quick note again, if you know anyone still in the city, if they are stuck in the city, it's likely because of the MBTA. They've had to continue the service adjustments, and they will remain in effect through the end of service tonight. The end of service connections will also be impacted. So that means Blue Line shuttles, all buses have been suspended. Green Line, all trains are bypassing Arlington and Boylston. So it's a tough way to get out for anyone still stuck in the city. You see anyone who drove in still trying to make their way through Back Bay at this time. So we keep checking in different parts of the city. Here's on Newbury. We were just looking on Boylston right now. Here we're back on Boylston. And you see the First Republic Bank, and this is right near Lord and Taylor. So we saw police surround Lord and Taylor. They posted up right in front of the doors there, and we saw some officers go in, check to make sure no one's still in there. It looks like they're letting some police go, and so some officers may be headed to a different location. Emily, we've seen throughout the night where once we feel like one area has gotten under control, there's been another flare-up in a different part. We saw that happen with Downtown Crossing. We saw that happen with Tremont. So we've heard from the mayor, we've heard from the governor, we've heard from Boston Police. We know that rocks, frozen water bottles, glass bottles were thrown at police throughout the night. We heard from the governor, who called the actions of those who are out causing destruction, called them cowardly. And it's really lost the message of so many hours of peaceful protests that we saw earlier.
And it is, kind of recapping, we're here at the half hour, 12:32 right now on your Monday morning, if you can believe it. This all started in the afternoon with a number of peaceful protests, one originating at Nubian Square. People marched about 2.5, 3 miles through different parts of Boston, different neighborhoods, getting their message out, protesting the death of George Floyd, fighting against police brutality. You can see that video to the right of your screen of just how large those crowds were. A number of signs, people of all ages, all races coming together for one message of solidarity, making their way through the city, ending at the State House, where a number of speakers spoke over megaphones and loudspeakers, people trying to come together and have their voices heard. And then around 9 o'clock tonight is when things took a turn. The tone changed. We saw a number of people break up different parts of the city. We saw area of Tremont, people here were throwing some tear gas or pepper spray back at police after it was thrown at them. And police trying to, of course, gather and get control and make their way down the street and push protesters into a certain area to try to disperse the crowds. Police for hours now have been tweeting out the message that it is time to go home. The peaceful protest has ended hours ago, and that now is the time for people to get out of the area.